And it says preparing. Sadly, I guess I could.
Oh, I think it says it's streaming now.
Oh, you're seeing something. Oh, great. Got
Yeah,
it. Lead
got a
meeting. Got it.
notification.
Cool. Okay, so that's pretty cool. It says preparing. Oh, now I'm hearing myself. I got to mute this. Sadly, I guess I could. See, that's what I was afraid of. So it is streaming. Maybe I don't need to monitor that. I'm just going to shut it down. All right. I think we're good. So Natalie, I'm going to take 1 second and reintroduce people to who we are, introduce them if they don't know, and then I'll hand it on to you. And I'm so glad you're here, and it's nice to see you again. How's the weather up there?
It's been creepily warm. I'm in Vermont, for people who don't know, and so it's been in like the 50s, which feels unsettling.
Oh, that is warm. Okay, so hi everybody. I'll just take a quick second to remind you some things that we're at the Sequential Artists Workshop. We Believe in Comics Friday night workshops that we took over from The Believer when they decided not to do them anymore. We're really honored that they let us do that. We're a place for learning. We're a school. We're an online school and an in-person school. You can find out more at learn.sawcomics.org, and we're also a nonprofit. Here's some courses we have coming up. Oh, here we are with Natalie on December 17th, but also in January, Leela Corman, it's actually maybe the first time she's teaching at SAW, even though she helped found the place. We'll be teaching a 4-week class and then a 4-week optional class in January and February. And I'll be doing one of my favorite courses in January. It's, I call it Storytelling Vinyasa. It's like a real stretch for your imagination. It's real fun. There's some bits over here about donations. We can accept donations at PayPal, Venmo, and Patreon. We've done a lot of good in the past 10 years that we've been around, and we do thrive on your donations. So if you feel comfortable and excited by the prospect of helping out our little cartooning school, we'd appreciate that. You can share what you do on social media, tag Friday Night Comics. You can use you can tag us at Comics Workshop on Twitter and Instagram. You can go to the members website that we have that's free and it's public and it's ongoing all the time, members.sawcomics.org. You can share anything you like there within reason. And there's just a bit of what goes on there. It's just some people sharing stuff. More about, I got to put our Venmo here, but it's so complicated. But anyway, there's a PayPal address. I'll put all this in the chat as well. In our Patreon and our members site. So please no inappropriate speech or imagery. We haven't had to ban anyone, but the Believer told us that they had to ban a person or two. So that's why this screen is up there. And we want you to enjoy this. Natalie, I'm so happy that you're joining us. I'm going to pin you, spotlight you for everybody. If you need to share a second screen or anything like that, let me know. And I'll handle that. Everyone, you can tell us where you're coming from in the chat. I'm going to mute video screen myself out, and you can reach me in the chat if you need to. Thanks, Natalie.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Great to see you again. So I'm Natalie Norris. I want to thank SAW for hosting this and also reaching out to me to have the opportunity to come lead this workshop. Also, welcome to all of you. Hello. I'd love to see where you're all coming in from. So tonight, the focus is drawing a comics letter to the past, and I'm going to get into what that really means in more detail. I have a short presentation for you guys, and then I'm going to lead you through a 4-panel comic with an option to make it a little longer. Yeah, so I want to make sure that you guys all have your supplies. You'll really only need probably 2 pieces of paper, so a sketchbook, and then also whatever drawing implement is your preferred way to make marks on the page. And before we get into it, so just to get the sort of gears rolling, we're going to be writing a letter. So I want you to take your paper and just generate a list of all the people who come to mind from your life, from your past, who you maybe aren't in contact with as much anymore. And this doesn't have to be someone that you had like a concrete falling out with. It can be a friend that you still interact with sort of passively on social media, but you haven't had a real like one-on-one conversation. I know a lot of us, with COVID, there's a lot of people that have sort of slipped through the cracks. And then it can be someone who you're really excited to see again and reconnect with. It could also be someone who you never want to see again. So any type of emotion or relationship is welcome here. And just, I want you to really get the ideas going. Don't hold yourself back. This is just brainstorming. And then also, lastly, you could do a part of your past self. So it could be like, for example, your pre-COVID self. It could be your childhood self. If you're someone who's sober, it could be yourself like before recovery. Any part of yourself that you feel like is different from who you are today. No, the person definitely doesn't have to be alive. I saw that in the chat. Yeah, it's a good opportunity to put any name down that comes to mind. So I'll give you just like a couple minutes. And you can feel free to keep working on this as we're going through the presentation. If someone comes to mind, just make a note. No, it doesn't have to be a person who you know. It can be someone who's a public figure. Really, there are no limits to this list. Just anyone who comes to mind who you aren't currently in contact with in the way that you would like to be. And yes, it can be your dead cat. Got about 30 seconds just to wrap up the list. Okay, so let's focus back up here. Feel free if you want to doodle during the presentation, that's also always welcome. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. So let's dive into what I mean by drawing a comics letter to the past. And I want to start by just introducing myself a little bit more. And why this topic is important to me. So first, I'm a cartoonist. Specifically, I work pretty much exclusively in memoir. And I graduated from the Center for Cartoon Studies in 2020. For those of you who aren't familiar, CCS is a comic school in Vermont, which is where I currently live. Before that, I went to Kenyon College and I was a studio art major and did a bunch of random things like stop motion animation and printmaking. And currently, I am a librarian at the Schultz Library, which is a comics library, super awesome. Yeah. And then, most importantly, I am a devoted dog mom, and my little 7-pound chihuahua is sitting behind me, and perhaps you'll get to see her. So, if you want to share your work, I'd really love it if you would tag me. I'm on Instagram at Natalie _Norris. And then, like Tom said, the hashtag Friday Night Comics is a great way to help see everybody's work as well. So right now I'm working on my first book, which is a graphic memoir called Dear Minnie. It's a coming of age story about trauma, sexuality, and resiliency, as well as friendship. I work traditionally, so I draw with a nib and dip ink and paint with watercolor. And it's going to be published by Fantagraphics in 2 volumes, and I'm hoping to get the first one finished up soon and have it out in 2023. I'm also serializing it on Patreon. If you guys are curious after this to see more, there is an intro video that you can watch for free on the page. My work is 18 plus, so you'll have to type in the exact URL because they block the search engine from bringing up anyone whose work is for adults. So the URL is patreon.com/dearminnie. So, as you probably noticed from the title, this memoir is written as a letter, and the book is addressed to my friend Minnie, who I lost touch with about 8 years ago. And the first book charts our brief but life-altering friendship and all of the misadventures that entailed. And the second book follows our journey of losing contact, reconnecting, and then trying to heal together. But I am far from the first person to write a book in the form of a letter. This format has its own fancy name, the epistolary novel, and the word derives from the Greek word for letter, but the form can also refer to using other types of documents such as diaries or newspaper clippings. It's common in fiction, but it's also used in memoir, and I think that this is where it has an especially profound effect, and most of my talk sort of focuses through the lens of memoir. And as you can see, there are some really powerful books here that have had a huge cultural impact, and they all used this framing device. When applied to comics, the visuals, as you can see in these panels from Daryl Sachik's comic Dear Missy, bring you even more into the process of what writing this letter or diary entry is like for the character. So we learn about the character's handwriting, what kind of paper they're using, writing implement, and everything that sort of says about them, like their age. It's also a way to include narration that tells a complementary story to the images and adds an additional layer to the comic. So what is it about the epistolary form that makes it such a useful framing device for all kinds of stories? Let's look at some of the strengths of this method. So first, there's a built-in feeling of intimacy. It's like the reader has a peek into a private conversation, which almost feels like reading someone's diary. And I know we all love to get the juicy details like that. So when you're writing for an audience of one, it helps you to know how to narrow the focus. Everything gets tailored to this one specific person, and even if you plan to share the work later, this can really help you in the writing stage. And this leads to a conversational tone. You can also think about how you talk to someone. For example, if you're addressing your grandmother, it will probably have a different tone than writing to an ex. Stories are all about human connection or lack of it, and this format brings that to the forefront. So the focus is how you are relating. And even though you're addressing one person who your reader probably doesn't know, what they'll relate to is the relationship. You also have the added benefit that the reader will feel like you're addressing them directly. When you say you, they'll feel personally involved, which leads to a heightened emotional impact. Okay, so here's a little visual metaphor. When we go to approach memoir, and also in some ways fiction, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed. Life is like the ocean. It's almost too vast to be fully comprehended at one time. So we have to figure out a way to narrow the focus and let a single story emerge. That's why it's really helpful to have a framing device. So you need a way to filter out what isn't necessary and focus on a cohesive story. You need a little bit of ocean in a bag. Epistolary comics have super defined boundaries, which you can think of as the plastic bag. I'd say that they're more concrete and specific than focusing on just a theme or an event. And this is because you can always go back to the guiding principle when you wonder what you should include and what can be left out, which is what is relevant to the person you're writing the letter to. So you can think of that person as the fish. I also want to mention that this can be super therapeutic to write someone a letter. Some of you maybe have heard the term in therapy of a no-send letter, which is where you just write to get everything off your chest. There's no filters and there's no intention to actually send it. It's super cathartic and works for comics too. And it can be easier to address more difficult topics in a letter, which is why I think it's so great for memoir. In my own story, I found it helpful to feel like I'm not alone when I'm addressing my friend Minnie, especially when talking about the darker times. It creates a sense of corroboration, and it reminds any skeptical readers that this isn't just your word, this was a shared experience. On a lighter note, it can also be a fun way to commemorate love and friendship and document the good times. So to wrap up, I'm just going to read a couple pages from the intro to my book. So here it says, maybe what's most strange is that we've been having the same difficult conversation for 7 years. Sometimes it feels like we occupy opposite sides of the same coin. Do conversations like these have an end? Will it ever not feel harrowing to face you? I want to find reconciliation. I want to show you my side of the coin. Will you come back to me, to the moment when our lives collided? Okay, so I hope that that helped to inspire you that this is an interesting format to use, because we're about to get into the workshop stage. So I assume you all still have your paper with you. And I'm going to lead you through the prompts. You'll have 5 minutes for each panel. Like I said, you're welcome to expand that if it feels like you want to break it up into multiple panels, just as long as you are being mindful of what you can finish in 5 minutes. Okay, so before we dive into that, everyone take a look at your list and think about who is jumping out at you on your list right now in this moment. Another thing to keep in mind, since I would love for you guys to share some of these, if you want to change the person's name, use a nickname, just an initial, so that when you're sharing, you don't have to worry about confidentiality or privacy. All right, so if you've all picked a name, so panel 1 is you're going to start with the salutation or the greeting. And some ideas are just how long it's been since you've been in touch and why you're reaching out now. All right, so we're going to start the clock. And I'll check in with the time. And I'm just going to play some background music.
Natalie, there are a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking at them now. Let me just pause this. Oh, so it's going to be you can plan for 4 panels. You're welcome to make it a little bit longer if you want. I think 1 page should be fine. And the first panel, the prompt is up on the screen. Let's see. And yeah, you're drawing and writing, making a comic with this prompt. Sure. That's okay. Okay, about 1 minute for this panel. All right, we're gonna switch over to panel 2 now, which is, that's panel 3. All right, so panel 2 is your first memory together, and this doesn't have to be the moment that you met. It can be your first pivotal moment, the first time you guys spent time alone together. Whatever comes to mind is just your first main memory. And we'll do 5 more minutes. You can do 1 panel. If you feel inspired, you can do another panel. got about 1.5 minutes for this one. I'm gonna wrap this panel up. Just a few more seconds. All right, and now we're gonna move on to the third panel, which is sort of like the climax of this story. So this can be either your favorite memory, your last memory, something that they taught you. If there was any kind of conflict, you can also address that here. So this is going to be the third beat out of 4, and you'll have 5 minutes again. Got a minute and 30 seconds for this one. All right, just a couple seconds here. All right, and now we are going to move to our last panel. This one is where you can talk about what you miss the most, also what you hope for in the future. Is this someone that you want to reconnect with, not want to reconnect with? And then whatever final thought comes to mind, and then make sure that you sign off love, sincerely, whatever feels right for this relationship. And we'll do 5 minutes, and then we will share. We've got about 1 minute to finish up this comic. So if there's anywhere else you want to go back and do a little edit, now's the time. Bye, Wendy. Thank you for coming. Oh, I'd love to see your comic if you want to post it. Time is up. Tom, do you want to take it away? I can stop sharing my screen.
Sure. Anyone who, if we're ready to share, which I think we are, Natalie, right? Should we just open it up? If you're ready to share, go ahead and use the Zoom hand. That's the best way. It's under reactions. And we'll just take them right down the line. I will unmute you and then make you large to everybody. I guess that's called spotlighting. And then suddenly they'll appear in front of Natalie and we can look and Natalie can say something. Okay, so we'll start. We have Rachel and Calvin, Jean, and then Allison, and then Sally. And I'll put that in the chat as well, but that's what I'm seeing right now. So I'm gonna spotlight Rachel and Calvin right now. That work? Oops. Anyway, there we go.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There go. I have. Okay. Theory. My best friend moved away to Philadelphia. Oh wow! There we go. Okay. It's been 4 months since we've seen each other. We will see each other soon. I'm very glad about this. Remember our obsession with Star Wars? Remember the last time we went to the beach chasing seagulls, man versus seagull war? I hope we can have that time again. Sincerely, Calvin.
Oh my gosh, that was just wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I love the seagulls. Man versus seagull.
Thank you.
I'm going to Jeannie now. There we go.
Thank you for doing this. I wasn't sure who I was going to write to, but I'm so glad I went through this. It is really powerful. Anyway, This is a letter to my friend Jenny. It's been a year or more or less since we each saw each other. She drove from Oregon to the Bay Area to visit friends left behind when she moved north because it's too expensive to live in the Bay Area. And I miss you. I should use the telephone. I hate the telephone, so I'm being selfish and scared. And the first time we met was in figure drawing group, and I decided to make it a little more PG, especially after our first share. So yeah, that's Jenny and that's me, and I'm on an iPad and she was drawing on paper. And the thing that I remember is she's the one who called me out being an adult child, and gave me a list of the 14 traits of an adult child. And what I really love about her is her honesty and strength. And I hope I can drive up to see her in Oregon soon And I'm going to try to use the telephone, even though I hate the telephone. So.
Wow, thank you, Jean.
That
was really great.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your little censorship bar.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to Allison next. There we go.
Okay, so I did my first, the guy I first had a slow dance with back in 1972. It was to Neil Young, Harvest, and he was in my class in school, but he was a twin, and his twin, she was very vigilant, and so it was really like this. I didn't feel like I could ever do anything with this guy without her sort of watching. And so I became friends with her, and we all drove down in my parents' station wagon from Madrid to Valencia in Spain. And this was very close quarters. So there was a lot of kind of illicit touching that never went anywhere. But what I miss about this relationship was how this innocent longing. And, we're old now, and we've always lived on different continents, Australia, Africa, Europe, and the US. So it's been fun. This has been a great exercise, and I can think of about 8 people that I want to write a letter like this to. So thank you. Fantastic.
Oh, great. Yeah, I love this. Thank you so much for sharing.
We'll go to Sally next. There we go, Sally.
Hi. So I actually made a photo of this so I can read it. Dear Dan, I guess we haven't seen each other since high school graduation. I'm writing now because I heard you died. Remember pasting up the school paper and trying not to bite our blow pops? We tried going on a date. We kissed goodnight when I dropped you off. We both busted up laughing, thank goodness. Oh no, too funny. I'm so glad we stayed friends. You were a lot of fun. You're the only boy I kissed who has died. I hope you had a good life. Love, Sally.
Oh, wow. Really powerful, Sally.
Thanks. I just heard that.
I'm so sorry.
Get the picture?
We'll go to Meta now. There we go.
Hi, I've only just started drawing. I'm more of a writer than a drawer. So it's in pencil. Hope you can see it. How come everyone else can you read it? So it says DT, I'm estranged from my brother, and it's quite painful. So I spoke to him. DT, it's been so long, and we still have forever to go. And that's me saying, I miss you. And that's him saying, leave me alone. Oh, this is like therapy. And I took a photo too. Thank you. And the next one says, I remember when you were little, how close we were and how much we loved each other. And we used to say to each other, I love you. No, I love you more. And then the next one. And then at some point you stopped wanting me around. I never really understood why. I wish it could be different. Aww. And then if whatever it is changes and you genuinely want me in your life again, let me know. I'll still have a happy life. And when I think of you, I'll try to be happy instead of sad. I hope you're happy.
Oh, wow. So moving.
Thank you. That was really
Thank you for sharing.
That's okay.
Wow.
Thank you, Nana. Okay, we'll go to Michelle. Here we go.
Okay, let's see if we can get it up here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is to my niece. It's been about 17 years since we've been close. Your dad, my brother, is in jail again. He always is. And now you're old enough that you want to help him. I didn't finish my sentence. He needs to want help. I miss that ease that we had with each other on the beach at Dana Point. You were 5 and we flew kites and explored the tide pools together. Our dads were there too. Mine, your debit check is gone now. Oops, this way. And then this one's about her grandma. getting mad at us and holding a grudge. And she maintains the grudge for her after her grandma died. And then the last panels, just asking her to either trust me to help her and my brother, or just stop asking me to be this other thing that I can't figure out what she wants.
I love how you used animals.
Yeah. Thanks. I have another thing about my brother that I'm working on called Incarcerated, where he's a cat. But she didn't appear in that one yet.
Oh, I love this. Great border too.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, we'll go to Hannah Lur now. There we go.
Well, I wrote to my grandma who, I might have to turn my background off. No, I think it'll work. My grandma died when I was quite small, and I didn't really appreciate her because I was young and she was old and she had Alzheimer's and she had some physical infirmities. So let me see if I can make this come out better.
There you go.
Okay. Dear Grandma, it seems like I write about you, but never to you. I'm older now than you were when you died. I remember you standing under the lilacs and how happy you looked, and how you always said you wanted to go home. But where was home? Was it Ireland, where your family lived and had so many children? You changed your name. Her name was Hannah. So I wanted to write Hannah and then write over it. You changed your name. Why did you write over who you were and create someone called Florence? Did you want to forget the shoe and the so many children? But then why did you always want to go home? I wish I could stand under the lilacs with you and ask you, love me, Ginny's girl.
So many great questions. And I love how you talked about you've written so much about her, but never directly to her. Really great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Jackie. Here we go.
So mine's kind of wordy. I'll try to cut to the chase here, but I wrote to an old friend of mine from high school named Suzanne, and what it's about is it's been a long ass time since we've spoken, not since I ran into the Philadelphia Museum of Art and called me a bitch for living in Chicago. But the reason I wrote to her, and here's me writing the letter, is that sorry, my daughter's doing something behind me, that she's like this brother that never went to school with us and was really a little quote unquote weird. And my daughter has autism and is now what I understand to be autistic. And that's why I reached out to her. Our first memory together is that in 6th grade, her mom made these Klaus Oldenburg type cloth French fries. We listened to Chipmunk Punk and played air guitar to them. And here's us playing air guitar. Then the third panel goes a little weird here. I talked about how now I understand, like, she had a lot of issues, and now I understand was kind of why she was the way she was. But here's her brother. Like, I remember he came up to me and said, like, they were working on the floor or something in their house. If you step on this floor, your name is Mud. And he thought that was really funny. And I'm like, and my friend's like, come on. in my last panel, it's, you know, it's too bad we lost touch. I burned a lot of bridges trying to distance myself from the East Coast. Maybe yours was among them. Maybe we can keep in touch on the interwebs. But this was stuff I thought you should know. And then it's my daughter, I want snack. He asked me for a snack. And I'm like, okay, just give me a minute. So I don't know. I thought about her more times, I think, since my daughter was diagnosed, and maybe all the years put together to it. But that was just what came to mind. So.
Wow, that's such an interesting story and connection. I love how expressive the character design is and their faces.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Well, Jeannie, you've got your hand up again. Are we going to you? Okay, I'll lower your hand and then we'll go to Umi. There we go. Oh, you're muted, Umi. Let's see. Yeah.
I think I've done a kind of mean comic. I think I sounded mean, but I'm sure that I'm not the only one who's mean. I wrote something for my grandmother, and it's bilingual, so I'm just gonna read it. Dear Booby, she called me Umi, but she had, I don't know, she wasn't really able to say anything, so I thought like she was calling herself Booby because she was never I don't know, she wasn't really talking to me. She was just like ranting and raving all the time. So it's been 20 years and I'm writing to you because you're dead. Oh, so sad. So mean. I'm not a mean person, but I think it's because of her and other people in my life. Thanks to them, including her. Of course, you're my grandmother. I didn't choose to meet you. I was glad we never lived together. She was smoking all the time. And yeah, she was really mean. I don't recall anything good about being around you. You felt complicated and difficult to me. I learned that I can obligate myself a role of caretaker, just like I can yawn even when I'm not sleepy. She was disabled and she was born in 1919 and she was lesbian and she was a daughter of a banker. So she has a lot of story, but it was really complicating her and complicating our lives. I don't miss you because I tried everything to make you feel less in pain enough. But your big, sad, tough life should be written. So I'll keep you in mind. That's all I did. So this is me kind of, I don't know, leaving her onto my iPod and iPad. Yeah.
No, I love it. It's so honest and just, I don't know, you can feel the emotion and the complication and everything. Thank you so much, Umi.
Okay, we'll go to Sarah next. There we go.
Hi. I have a really short one. It's I wrote to my teenage self because I was really unhappy back then. It turns out I actually had undiagnosed autism, which yeah, so I was really depressed a lot. And what I wrote down is this. If anybody can see it, I wrote down, dear teen me, I know you think, we turned 40 this year. I know what you're thinking, but it's really not that old. And from the beginning, you struggled with self-hate. And is it in reverse? Like this is the first panel and that's the second.
Oh yeah, we can, it's right.
Okay. And that's me in the mirror, looking at myself, seeing all my problems. But now I know the importance of being kind to yourself. And I wish we could do it all over again, only this time armed with that knowledge. And,
wow.
That
was so powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Sarah. We'll go to Jared next. I think Jared's last, or you'll close out the evening for us.
This is one that my daughter made. It's a guinea pig who meets a mermaid and then has to go home because her mom calls her.
Wow, excellent. Love that character design.
Thank you.
All right. Natalie, I'll put you back on spotlight.
Okay.
You pulled out so many great stories out of people and so much emotion.
I'm so honored. This was so wonderful. You guys had me tearing up. That was just really, this has been a wonderful experience. And I hope that if anyone wants to share more, they'll post on social media and tag me and also tag Saw so we can see all of these.
We usually sign out by letting everybody unmute and give a big cheer and a thank you and all sorts of things. So like, if you're ready, Natalie, maybe we'll do that.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. I think I can unmute everybody. But
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So great.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Bye, Susanna. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, speaking for myself and you, else is good. You won't miss the dancing. For years of.
all right.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Tom.
Oh, sure, Natalie. This was really great. Thank you so much. I'll send you a link if you want to share this around some more.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
Okay. And we'll do it again.
Yeah, I'd love to. All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.